My name is Lin Ruoxi, and I feel quite ashamed to say that a big man can't even walk the road. It's not that I have bad legs and feet, but that this world does not leave a way out for people like me. This is the Tianxian dynasty, which sounds quite elegant, but in fact, this place is a prison for us men. Women are the masters of their families, and men can only lower their heads and behave like horses. Even if they raise their heads and look at the sky, they have to ask whether the female manager next to them will answer. I have read books for several years, don't say it out loud. If you can't be regarded as a waste, it will burn the fragrance. That morning, I took the old house in the dilapidated book school in the south of the city and gave a group of little girls to teach calligraphy. Don't misunderstand, it's not that I'm very capable, but that their adults think that teaching is just suitable for our men to do. I held that little work amount, and I could hardly fill my stomach, but I felt a sense of fire in my heart, which made me unable to sleep. In this world, men don't deserve even their dreams, and I don't believe in this evil. Mr. Lin, Mr. Lin. A sharp voice broke my thoughts. I looked down and saw a little girl wearing a sleek skirt, named Xiao Yaoguang, and her home was a female businesswoman with a face in the city. She pointed out the window, full of her face. There was a lot of silence outside. I heard that the female soldier's steamboat was back. Let's go and have a look. I snaked my eyebrows, and I didn't want to be so hot. Steam flying boats are special things of the female tribe, the most advanced technology in the Tianxian dynasty, and men do not have the qualifications to get close to them. I heard that something can fly into the sky and carry people through cloud layers, faster than birds. But to me, no matter how bad this thing is, it has nothing to do with me. However, Xiao Yaoguang's shiny eyes were actually unavoidable. I sighed and said, "Okay, just take a look, don't be too late." After leaving the school, the streets were covered with people, and men, women, young and old all stretched their necks to look into the sky. I looked up in their eyes and saw a huge flying boat descending from the clouds. The thing was black all over, like a slab, and the whole was carved with dragon patterns. There were several large smokes on both sides, constantly emitting white air and making a deep sound of slumber. The crowd below was shocked, especially those little girls, who were so excited that they saw God. I heard that this is the commander of Morong's army. Xiao Yaoguang hurried to my ears and said in a low voice, "She is the most powerful female army in our dynasty, and even Her Majesty the Queen is polite to her." I curled my lips, and there was no slight slight in my heart. No matter how bad the female soldiers are, she wouldn't look at me like her for a second. However, this boat is really eye-catching. If I could go up and touch it, even if I just had a single shot, it would not be in vain. Unfortunately, this kind of thing is ridiculous to think about. Just as I was about to take Xiao Yaoguang back, a sudden rush came from the corner of the street. Several female waiters in official uniforms pushed the crowd and walked towards us in a hurry. The woman in the head looked blue, glanced at me, then pointed at me and said coldly, "You are Lin Ruoxi?" My heart skipped a beat, and I hurriedly lowered my head and replied respectfully, "Yes, the villain is Lin Ruoxi. I wonder what Lord has to give." She ignored my polite words and slapped her hand. The waiter next to her immediately stepped forward to hold me up. My legs were so scared that I was so soft that I quickly asked, "Sir, why is this? I didn't make any mistakes." "Stop talking." The female official snorted coldly, "Someone reported that you had hidden a forbidden book in private. I suspect you have the opposite intention. Let's go with us." My brain buzzed and I was almost standing still. Forbidden books? Reverse? This hat is too big. I am a little book student and I can't even eat anything. Where can I say the opposite? But in this world, no one heard the man's words, and the female official said the order, and I had no chance to explain, so I was dragged to the prison in the north of the city. Xiao Yaoguang was so anxious that she stomped her feet, but she couldn't help her with her little girl, so she could only watch me being taken away with her eyes. I was both angry and panicked, and I could only grit my teeth and endure it. When he arrived at the prison, the female official didn't say much and threw me into a damp and smelly cell, then threw me away, "I'm waiting for the interview," and left. The cell was pitch black, with only a dim oil lamp in the corner of the wall, which could barely illuminate a few steps away. I leaned against the cold wall and formed a group in my brain. Who harmed me? The forbidden book is purely a nonsense discussion. I dare not even look at the faces of the female nobles. Where did the chastisement boy hide what forbidden book? But in this place, once a man is caught, he will most likely be out of here. I am afraid that my life will be explained. Just as I was thinking about it, a sound of footsteps suddenly came from outside the cell. I looked up and saw a figure standing at the door, wearing a long black robe and a facial scarf covering it, and I couldn't see clearly. The man's voice was low, carrying a little sandy mouth, and he sounded like a man. Lin Ruoxi, do you want to survive? I was stunned for a moment, then quickly got up, and asked through the iron column, who are you? Why did you help me? The man didn't answer my question, but took out a key from his sleeve and opened the prison with a click. He waved at me and said in a low voice, don't ask so many questions. Come with me, otherwise you will be dead. I was in my heart, but I had no choice now, so I could only follow him with my head. After leaving the cell, the outside was dark and even the guard was not seen. It was obvious that this person had already prepared. We walked around and finally slipped out from the prison door and came to a deserted forest outside the city. When I arrived at a safe place, the man stopped and turned to me and said, my name is Xiao Yaoguang, I am a craftsman. I heard that you have read a lot of books and have a brain light, so I saved your life. I gasped and asked with great difficulty, save me? Why? I don't know you. Xiao Yaoguang took off the towel and exposed a face full of frosty. He looked no older than me. He grinned and said, because I need help, and you are the right person to choose. Help? What the help? The more I heard, the more confused I became. Instead of answering directly, he took out an old map from it, opened it in front of me, pointing to a red mark on it and said, here, 30 miles outside the city, there is an abandoned steamboat. I heard that this thing is not simple, there are some strange things hidden inside, saying that it may change the fate of our men. If you are willing, we will go and explore together, and we may be able to turn over. I was stunned by the sound. Steam flying boat? That is the tyrant of the female tribe, and it is a death sentence for men to touch it. But there was a crazy roar in Xiao Yaoguang's eyes, which also ignited a lot of hope in my heart. Over the years, I have been trampled on my feet. If I really have the chance to change my fate, I will admit it even if I risk it. Okay. I gritted my teeth and said, I'll go with you. But we have to be careful not to turn over and spend our lives first. Xiao Yaoguang laughed and patted my shoulder, don't worry, I have been doing this for many years and I still have the ability to save my life. Let's go all night long, and we must go there before dawn. So we took advantage of the night and touched the mark on the map. On the way, Xiao Yaoguang talked to me about his affairs. It turned out that he was a very good craftsman who specialized in repairing some mechanical things, but because he was a man, he could not get acknowledged no matter how hard he tried, so he could only secretly take some private life. He said that the steam-flying boat he found this time was mentioned by an old craftsman, saying that no one had touched it for several years, and there might be a big secret in it. After walking for the middle of the night, we finally arrived at a deserted valley at dawn. Far away, I saw a huge boat parked at the bottom of the valley. The hull was already covered with scattered grass beside it, and it seemed that it had been abandoned for a long time. Xiao Yaoguang's eyes lit up and he said in a low voice, that's it. Let's go down and take a look. We approached carefully, and the hull of the boat was filled with complicated patterns. Although it was broken, we could still see the atmosphere of that year. My heart was beating hard, and I always felt that there was something strange about it that could not be described in this place. Xiao Yaoguang was so big that he climbed onto the side of the boat and waved to me, come up, don't be too slow. I took a deep breath and climbed up. The boat was pitch black, and the air was filled with a smell of iron and musty smell. Xiao Yaoguang raised a chicken of oil light, and with the faint light, we began to explore everywhere. The ship was not big, but the things inside were dazzling, filled with strange-shaped wheels and tubes, and several large crocodile plates with symbols that I couldn't understand. This thing is indeed not simple. Xiao Lingfeng touched a huge console and was full of excitement. I dare to catch a gamble. This is not only a flying boat, but also a different purpose. I was about to ask him what he meant, but suddenly, a low buzzing sound came from my feet, and the whole ship was shaking lightly. I was startled and asked quickly, "What's going on?" Xiao Lingfeng was also stunned for a moment, and then looked down and found that several buttons on the console had a faint red light. He whispered, "It seems that he had touched something." Before he finished speaking, a transparent circular column suddenly rose in the middle of the ship, and a crystal ball the size of a fist floated inside. The light flowed in the crystal ball, as if it was alive, and then a low voice came out of it, sounding like a woman. "The time device is activated, the target is locked on the eve of the War of Heaven. Warning, those who are not authorized are prohibited." Xiao Lingfeng and I looked at each other, and my brain was blank. Time device? The Battle of Heaven? What kind of ghost thing is this? But before we could react, the light of the crystal ball suddenly flourished, and the entire ship was covered in a dazzling white light. I just felt dizzy, and my body seemed to be pulled hard by something, and then I lost my mind. When I opened my eyes again, the surrounding scene had completely changed. The boat was still there, but the sky outside became unusually sunken, and thunderbolts were also coming from afar. I climbed to the side of the ship and saw that it was not a valley below, but a vast war scene, with countless soldiers killing each other, shouting loudly. Xiao Lingfeng also woke up and said in shock, What is this? We won't really travel through time, right?" I felt a gang in my heart, but I didn't think that all this could be separated from that War of Heaven. Looking at the fierce battle below, I suddenly realized that this flying boat, this battle may be the key to changing fate. And I, a little book student, are now standing at the turning point of history. I have no idea how to leave next. At this moment, a sudden burst of footsteps came from behind the flight. I turned suddenly and saw a woman wearing silver armor walking in. She was so angry that she looked like a knife. She swept over me and Xiao Lingfeng, and then opened her mouth coldly. "Who are you? Why are you on my boat?" I felt nervous in my heart, and I hurriedly lowered my head, and heard the low voice of Ling Feng in my ears. "This woman is not simple. Maybe it's the Morong army. We are afraid we will kick the iron board this time." The woman's voice was as cold as ice, which made my back numb. I lowered my head and my brain turned quickly, trying to find a way to fool me, but I couldn't even hold up the complete sentences. Xiao Lingfeng was a little more settled than my town. He stood up straight and smiled with a smile. "Sir, we are just passing by." Seeing that this boat was not under the supervision, I thought it was a waste, so I came up and took a look. It was absolutely irrelevant. That woman, Morong Shuanghua, who was suspected to be Morong Yan's army, raised her eyebrows and looked full of disdain. She approached slowly, and the silver light on her armor was dazzled in the dim ship, and a feeling of pressure radiated from her body that made people breathless. She stopped in front of me, looked up and down, and snorted coldly, "By the way, 2 men climbed onto my boat in the middle of the night, and dared to say it was the way. Is it a good thing to be a third-year-old?" My heart skipped a beat. I knew that this was not going to be good. I hurriedly added, "Sir, we are really not mad. My name is Lin Ruoxi, and I am a book student of the teachings. This is Xiao Lingfeng, and I will use mechanical artifacts. We just heard that this boat is a bit strange. If you want to open your eyes, you will never be disrespectful." Morong Shuanghua heard it. Her face was not calm, but instead she narrowed her eyes and her voice became colder. "Bookie? Craftsman? Humph, what kind of future can a man have? It's not the kind of food that steals chickens and touches dogs. Why did you turn on the time device? This thing is not something you can touch." As soon as the 4 words of the time device were released, Xiao Lingfeng and I looked at each other, and my heart was in my throat. It seems that this woman knows much more than us, and she just turned so far and there was a war outside, which was probably related to what time travel was. But the problem is that we didn't know how to do it, but it was purely a mistake. Now when she asked me, we were so embarrassed. Seeing that we didn't say anything, Morong Shuanghua's face became even darker. He raised his hand and slapped the long sword on his waist swish out of the sheath, pointing directly to my neck. I was so scared that I almost knelt down, and hurriedly held my hand. Sir, let's have a life. We really don't know when the device was used, but we accidentally touched a few buttons, and then, it turned out like this. She stared at me for a few seconds, and the sword tipped slightly, as if she was weighing the truth about what I said. Finally, she put away the sword and said coldly, since you don't know, then just stay tuned and don't make trouble for me. You are now on my boat, and your life is in my hands. If you want to survive, just listen. Xiao Lingfeng and I were busy, so how could we say that we didn't say anything? Morong Shuanghua ignored us anymore, turned around and walked to the console, and carefully pressed a few buttons. The buzzing sound in the boat gradually calmed down, and the dazzling white light on the outside disappeared. She looked down at the instrument's display and murmured, "The timeline is shifted, and it must be corrected before the light is lit." I heard a fog of water. Who is the ray of light? But looking at her solemn expression, I wondered that this matter was more complicated than I thought. Xiao Ling whines into my ears and whispers, "This woman is not simple. We'd better not be upset and see what's going on." I clicked the head, and my heart felt like a big stone was pressing down. The sound of the war scene outside the craft is getting closer and closer, and occasionally there are artillery fire in the air, causing people's skin to become numb. After Morong Shuanghua operated the console, he turned to us and said, "Since you are here, don't think you can go down easily. Now this boat has been locked on the eve of the War of Heaven. The result of this battle will determine the fate of the Tianxian dynasty. You want to help me and die, choose." I swallowed, and my heart swelled. The Battle of Heaven makes this name creepy when I hear it, but I haven't even killed a book student, so what can I do to her? Send to death? But looking at her eyes, she would probably be thrown off the boat and fell down. Xiao Lingfeng was more decisive than me and gritted his teeth and said, "Sir, we are willing to help. But you have to tell us what's going on. At least we have to understand why we are trying hard." Morong Shuanghua looked at him, as if he thought this was a little reasonable. After a moment of silence, he opened his mouth. "Okay, since you want to know, I will tell you. This boat is not just a means of transportation, it can also travel through time and change history. The War of Heaven is the turning point of the Tianxian dynasty. If this battle ends, the dynasty will collapse and men will never be able to turn around. Now, someone has come from the future to try to manipulate this battle, ensuring that women's governance will never be shattered. My mission is to stop her." I was stunned when I heard it, and my brain seemed to be struck by lightning. Shuttle time? Change history? This sounded like Tianfang Yu, but looking at the strange battle scene outside, I had to believe it. Xiao Lingfeng asked with a brow and said, "Who is that person from the future? Why do you do this?" Morong Shuanghua sneered, with a hint of hatred in her eyes. "She is called Yaoguang. She is the time manager of the future, and she has great power to cover the sky with one hand. She wants to make this desperate world ever change and let men be trampled under her feet forever. And I also come from the future, but I have different ideas from her. I think history should not be controlled, and fate should be decided by people of this era." I was shocked and I knew something. In this world, men are so stressed that I have long hated this injustice. If history can be changed and men can lift their heads and behave like a human being, then it is worth it for me to fight my life. But at the same time, I felt uneasy. How could we touch this thing at will? If you make a lot of money, who can afford the consequences? Morong Shuanghua didn't give us too much time to think. She pointed to the console and said, "Now, the craft has reached the day before the war. We must find the key figures on the battlefield before experiencing light and change the direction of the war. Lin Ruoxi, you have read the book and your brain should not be stupid. Help me analyze the terrain and war. Xiao Lingfeng, you know machinery and are responsible for the maintenance and operation of the craft. Don't let it lie halfway." When we looked at it, although we had no idea, we could only stick to our heads. Next, Morong Shuanghua began to explain her plan to us. She said that the key to the War of Heaven was a fortress called Yunguan. As long as you guard that place, the dynasty's troops could turn the situation. But the problem is that Guang had already made plans in advance and sent people to join the defenders, preparing to cooperate outside the war when the war broke out, so that the clouds could be lost. We have to dive into the cloud first, find out the inner part of the light, and then help the guards to stabilize their feet. Morong Shuanghua said, taking out a map from his waist, placing it on the console, pointing to a red point. This is cloud, not far from where we are now. The boat is fast and can be reached before dark, but be careful not to be discovered by the enemy. I looked at the map, my heart was up and down. Diving into the fortress? Find out the inner side? It sounds even harder than climbing the sky. How could I, a book student who has no power to reduce the power of chicken? But Morong Shuanghua's eyes were unquestionable. I know that now is not the time to retreat. In the next few moments, the flying boat was flying towards Yunguan under her control. In order not to attract attention, she deliberately let the boat fly on the cloud layer. Although the speed was a little slower, at least it would not be discovered by the troops on the ground. Zhao Lingfeng was busy checking the mechanical parts of the boat, knocking and hitting them at times, muttering in his mouth, "This thing is too old and the wheels are almost worn out. If there may be problems at any time, I have to find a chance to overhaul." I was pulled by Morong Shuanghua and learned some basic combat knowledge. She showed me the map and taught me how to judge the advantages of terrain. She also talked about some tricks in military tactics, such as waiting for the enemy with ease and sounding to the west. Although I have read the book, these things are still too strange to me. I feel dizzy and can only remember them. When it was getting dark, the boat finally arrived above the clouds. Looking down from a height, this fortress was built between two mountains, with a critical territorial area, easy to defend and difficult to attack, and is indeed a must-fight for military strategists. There were many soldiers underneath, and the dragon pattern of the Tianxian dynasty was painted on the flag, which looked like our army. But Morong Shuanghua stared at her eyebrows and said in a low voice, "Don't be too early, the people who are shining in must have mixed in. We have to act carefully." She controlled the boat to land in a hidden forest, and then took Xiao Lingfeng and I off the boat. As the cold wind blew, I couldn't help but beat the cold, and my heart was so tight that it was so tight. Morong Shuanghua took out a set of old military uniforms from the flying boat and let me and Zhao Lingfeng change it, saying that it was used when entering the fortress. She put on a broken cloak and covered her armor strictly so as not to be recognized. "Remember, don't talk, don't look at it, just dress it up as an ordinary soldier." She jingled in a low voice, "Our goal is to find the guard, tell him the situation, and make him beware of it. If there is a chance to directly find the person who is shining, it would be even better." I clicked my head, but I had no idea what the heart was. Decorate soldiers? Don't say it's worn, I'm afraid of being exposed even when I walk. Xiao Lingfeng calmed down, patted my shoulder, and said in a low voice, "Don't panic, I'm here, I'll make sure you're fine." The three of us took advantage of the night to touch the back door of the cloud. There were several guards at the door. When we saw us coming, we raised a torch and asked, "Who is it?" "The command." Morong Shuanghua had already prepared and said a few words in a low voice. Then Shouwei heard it, clicked the head and let it go. I felt a little relaxed in my heart, and I admired this woman's careful thoughts even more. I could hear the password clearly. After entering the fortress, there were lights and fires in it. There were soldiers coming back to patrol the law everywhere, and there was a tight atmosphere in the air. Morong Shuanghua took us through several paths and came to a broken camp, and said in a low voice, "This is the place where the guard's adjutant lives. Start with him first and hear the news." She pushed open the door, and there was a young female military officer sitting in it. When she saw us coming in, Lima stood up and looked alert. "Who are you? What's the matter?" Morong Shuanghua said with a low voice, pretending to be respectful, "Sir, we are scouts from the front line. If there is an urgent military situation, we need to report the guards." "I'm sorry for you to report it." The female officer glanced at us suspiciously, as if she thought there was something wrong, but she still said, "Okay, you wait, I'll go report." After she turned away, Murong Shuanghua said to us in a low voice, "This person is probably having a problem, but her eyes just shy, as if she was worried. We have to keep a stare at her, so don't let her run away." Sure enough, after a while, the female military officer came back and looked unnatural, saying, "The Guardian is discussing the matter, and I can't see you at any time, so you can go back first." Murong Shuanghua sneered, suddenly made a move, grabbed her wrist, pulled out a dagger with the other hand and pressed it against her neck, shouting softly, "Who are you? Did you come from the Xiao Yaoguang sect?" The female military officer's face changed drastically, and she wanted to shout, but she was pressed down by Murong Shuanghua and could not even sound. Xiao Lingfeng and I were stunned, but we didn't expect her to do so much. The female military officer gritted her teeth and refused to open her mouth. Murong Shuanghua's eyes turned cold, the strength on her hands increased, and a blood mark appeared on her neck with the dagger. "If I don't say it, I don't guarantee that you can live to see tomorrow's sun." Murong Shuanghua's voice was shocking. The female military officer finally couldn't bear it and said tremblingly, I was forced. The man from Wanwang threatened me. If he didn't help, he would kill my whole family. I had no choice but to listen to her." Murong Shuanghua asked the naughty eyebrows and asked, "What did she let you fuck?" The female military officer trembled and said, "She let me secretly open the back door of the fortress and release the enemy troops in when the war broke out. I really don't want to betray the dynasty, but I didn't choose." When I heard this, my heart felt cold. The man named Sun Guang was indeed cruel and ruthless, and even these methods of using the following three methods can be used. Murong Shuanghua was silent for a moment, put away his dagger, and said, "Okay, I will give you a chance to be punished. Tell me, how many people are still in the fortress? Where are they?" The female military official hesitated for a moment, and finally explained in a fair manner, "There are 3 more people, all near the east side of the river, and they are responsible for taking over the enemy." After getting the information, Murong Shuanghua stopped talking and directly sent the female military officer up and put it into the corner of the business hall. Then he said to us, "Let's go and eat now and solve those insides, otherwise there will be no harm." Xiao Ling and I were at a loss. Although we were nervous, we also knew that this matter could not be delayed. The night was getting deeper and deeper, and there were fewer patrol soldiers in the fortress. The 3 of us took the opportunity to touch the vicinity of the east wall. Sure enough, I saw several sneaky figures far away, talking in a low voice beside the wall. Murong Shuanghua made a hand gesture to let us surround to the side and she approached from the front herself. After we were in place, she suddenly felt troubled. She beat her down 2 of them without reacting within a few times. The remaining one wanted to run away, but was pulled up by Xiao Lingfeng and pressed on the ground and could not move. "Say, where's the light now?" Murong Shuanghua grabbed one of the faces and asked coldly. The man bit his teeth tightly and kept his mouth shut. Murong Shuanghua didn't have the patience to ask again, so he punched him directly on his face and knocked him over. Then she turned to us. "It seems that Jie Kuang herself hasn't arrived yet, but her plan has begun. We have to inform the guards to make him more defense. Otherwise, when the enemy comes in, no one can escape." I stumbled, and I felt in my heart that this was not so simple. Since the light of the sacred light can come from the future, there are definitely more methods. I am completely unsure of what will happen next. But no matter what, there is no way out now, so I can only follow Murong Shuanghua and walk forward step by step to see where this war of heaven will bring us. The sky became darker and darker, the lights and fires in the clouds swayed, and the sound of war drums from afar were coming, making people feel panicked. Xiao Lingfeng and I followed Murong Shuanghua. After solving the problems of the few insides of Yumeng, we were still covered with soil and sweat, and we didn't dare to relax in our brains. Murong Shuanghua's face was blue and his steps were flying fast. He said to us in a low voice, "There is not much time left. Since the person who is pursuing the light has come in, it is clear that her plan is faster than I expected. We must find the guard immediately and explain the situation clearly. Otherwise, the fortress will be finished when the sun is dawn." I stumbled my head, my heart beat like a drumbeat. Although I didn't say it, I didn't have any idea. A book student usually dares not kill chickens. Now he wants to lick blood from the knife and say that he is not afraid of it. Xiao Lingfeng was more stable than me, patted my shoulder and said in a low voice, "Don't panic, let's follow her, it's better than yourself. At least, she seems to know what she is doing." The three of us took advantage of the night to walk through several patrol soldiers' paths and finally came to the guards' camp. Two female soldiers stood at the entrance of the gate. When we saw us coming, Lima stopped and asked, "Who is the guard?" "The guard is discussing the matter, and the idle people are not allowed to approach." Morong Shuanghua's low voice sounded, and his voice was filled with unquestionable majesty. "I am a scout from the front line. If there is an urgent military situation, I will report it. I will bother you to report it. Otherwise, if you miss the big thing, you will not be responsible." The two female soldiers looked at each other and seemed to be frightened by her vigor. One of them hesitated for a moment and pointed, "Okay, you wait, I'll go and report." After saying that, she turned around and opened her account and walked in. After waiting for a while, the female soldier came back with a bad face and said, "Mr. Guardian said, I don't see anyone now, so I will say anything at dawn. You can go back first." Morong Shuang had a flash of eyebrows, and her eyes were filled with impatience. She said coldly, "Dawn? This fortress may have become a ruin. Tell you to guard. If the clouds are lost due to her delay, Her Majesty the Queen will blame you, and no one can escape." This was so heavy that the female soldier's face changed, as if she was really scared, and she rushed in to report again. We didn't wait too long this time. When the secret was lifted, a middle-aged woman wearing heavy armor walked out. Her face was dark and her eyes were as sharp as a knife. She glanced at us and opened her mouth. "I am the Yunguan Guardian Jinghua. I heard that you have urgent military affairs. What's the matter?" Morong Shuanghua didn't say anything, and directly told the plan of the inner and inner light that he had just caught. Her words were calm, but every word seemed to hit a rock, with unquestionable force. After Zhenghua finished listening, his face became increasingly difficult to see. After a moment of silence, he said in a low voice, "If what you said is true, it is really important. But who are you? What do I trust you? What should I do if you are a fine work from the enemy army?" My heart was nervous and I felt that this was going to be bad. After all, the three of us didn't look like regular soldiers, especially Xiao Lingfeng and I, wearing old military uniforms and covered in mud, were suspicious no matter how we looked at it. Morong Shuanghua was calm and took out a token with a dragon pattern from his waist, passed it to Zhenghua, and said, "This is the token of Her Majesty the Queen, and you will see the orders as you see. If you don't believe it, you can send someone to verify it, but the time will not wait for others. Please consider it yourself." Xinhua received the token, took a closer look, and his face finally calmed down. She gave the token to Morong Shuanghua and pointed out, "Okay, I believe you. Since there is an internal interference, I will immediately order to investigate the fortress and strengthen the defense. What actions will the light-headed person do?" Morong Shuanghua said with a brow, "Since she can send her in-house, she shows that she may have arrived nearby, and may even be driving another steam-flying boat over the clouds to monitor everything. Her goal is to ensure that the clouds are lost and the battle is failed, so next, she is likely to take action alone to create a bigger mess." When I heard this, my heart skipped a beat. The name is so terrifying when you hear it. A time manager from the future has ruthless methods. Even Morong Shuanghua is so jealous of her. If she really takes action, will we still have a way out? Xinhua heard it, his face also darkened, and he gritted his teeth and said, "Okay, since that's the case, I will send people to guard the fortresses and gather crossbowmen to prepare to threaten the air at any time. Since you know how to fly, please help me guard the sky and don't let her fly get close." Morong Shuang hit the head and turned to Xiao Lingfeng and me, "Go back to the boat and prepare for flight. If the light of the celestial light is really nearby, we have to take the initiative to attack and can't give her a chance to take advantage of it." Xiao Lingfeng and I looked at each other. Although I was so nervous, I could only follow him hard. When I returned to the flying boat in the mountains, It was completely dark, and there was a loud shout in the direction of the far-off war scene, and a pressure atmosphere was filled with the air. As soon as Zhao Lingfeng got on the boat, he began to check the mechanical parts and muttered in his mouth, "This broken thing is really not reliable. The wheel was stuck once when it landed. If it is not repaired now, it may be stumbled at any time." Morong Shuanghua ignored his complaints and walked straight to the console, started the boat carefully, and said in a low voice, "Lin Ruoxi, you are responsible for observing the surroundings. Any abnormal horses tell me. Zhao Lingfeng, fix your things, don't let me drop the chain when you are in the quay." I clicked my head, stood on the side of the boat, and looked around with the faint moonlight, and my heart beat faster and faster. The boat slowly took off, and the engine emitted a deep geese, and steam sprayed out of the smoke, bringing a heat to the surface. The cloud fortress is getting smaller and smaller under our feet, and the skyline far away looks unusually heavy, as if it is hidden in something in detail. At the other side, I suddenly glanced at a dark shadow in the sky northeast. Although it was far away, the wheel was clearly silhouetted by another boat, with a larger body than ours, and there was a flash of light on the hull. I hurriedly pointed to Morong Shuanghua and shouted, "Is it a ray of light?" She looked in the direction I pointed, her eyes froze, and she gritted her teeth and said, "It's her. This woman really can't help it. The engine is open, let's catch up." Zhao Lingfeng responded to a sound, quickly adjusting several valves on the console, and the speed of the boat increased steadily, and rushed towards the direction of the black shadow. The voice was yelling in my ears, and I grabbed the side of the boat, my palms were covered in sweat. The other party's flying boat seemed to have discovered us, and began to accelerate and try to open the distance, but Morong Shuanghua controlled it very smoothly and insisted on it. "She wants to run? It's not that easy." Morong Shuanghua sneered and pulled a pole rod suddenly. The boat suddenly turned around and took a shortcut and rushed in front of the other side. The distance between the two boats was getting closer and closer, and I finally saw the mark on the other side's hull. It was a complex clock pattern, with a strange atmosphere. Don't hide, come out." Morong Shuanghua stood at the head of the ship, his voice penetrated the voice, with a sense of being picked. The other party's boat stopped, the boat door opened slowly, and a woman in a long black robe walked out, wearing a golden crown on her head, so she was so arrogant that she dared not look directly. Her eyes were cold, as if she was looking at a few clicks, and she opened her mouth slowly. "Morong Shuanghua, you are really unwilling to give up. Is it worth it to be a car with a mantis arm?" My heart was shocked. Is this the light? Her voice sounded calm, but every word seemed to be filled with invisible pressure, making people breathless. Morong Shuanghua did not show any weakness and replied coldly, "History is not your personal toy, it is full of light. You want to let this world fall down forever and let men be trampled under your feet forever, but I don't believe in life. Today, I will break your plan." After hearing this, Xiao Yaoguang smiled lightly, as if he heard some joke. "Break it? Just hate you? And these two waste men behind you? Morong Shuanghua, you look down on yourself too much." As soon as she finished speaking, several dark gun barrels suddenly appeared on both sides of the boat, and the muzzles were facing us. I was so scared that my legs were soft and I hurriedly shouted, "Be careful, she wants to fire." Morong Shuanghua reacted very quickly, pulled the control rod suddenly, and the boat flipped over and barely avoided the first wave of artillery fire. The explosion sounded in my ears, and the heat waves came over me, and I was almost shocked and fell off the boat. Zhao Lingfeng gritted his teeth and tried his best to calm the boat. He whispered in his mouth, "This woman is so ruthless. Our boat can't stand it for a few times. Don't waste your time, prepare for a counterattack." Morong Shuanghua controlled the boat to avoid artillery fire, pointed at an old cannon in the ship, and shouted to me, "Lin Ruoxi, help me with medicine, hurry up." I was stunned for a moment. Although I had never done such a job, I had no time to hesitate now. I hurriedly ran over and followed her instructions to plug a heavy cannon into the cannon chamber. Morong Shuanghua aimed at the other party's flight, pulled the rifle down, and the cannon rushed out, hitting the side of the other party's hull, and a spark exploded. The face of the sunlight darkened, and it was obvious that we could still fight back. She snorted coldly and raised her hand to sniff. The artillery fire on her boat became even more intense, and she would hardly give us a chance to breathe. The two flying boats had fierce exchanges in the air, with gunfire sounds and fires all over the place. I just felt like I was doing a nightmare, and I might be blown to pieces at any time. This won't work. Our boat is too old and is not her opponent at all. Xiao Lingfeng shouted, his voice full of anxiety. Morong Shuanghua gritted his teeth, and made a decision in his eyes. He said in a low voice, "There is no other way, I can only fight hard." Lin Ruoxi helped me stabilize the fort, and shook the wind, and gave me the highest speed. I want to hit it. Crash? I was stunned at the same time. Zhao Lingfeng, isn't this seeking death? But Morong Shuanghua's eyes were unquestionable. She suddenly adjusted the direction of the boat and rushed straight towards the lighted boat. My heart was beating so hard that it was about to explode, so I could only hold on to the fort, and my brain was blank. The light of the squid obviously didn't expect that we would use this move, and the face finally changed, so we hurriedly controlled the boat to try to hide. But her craft was larger in size and was not as flexible as us. Morong Shuanghua grabbed the time frame and forced our boat to hit the other side of the hull. The huge impact made me fall to the ground, my ears were full of metal twisted harsh sounds, and the flying boat trembled violently, as if it was about to fall apart at any time. "Get up, don't be stunned." Morong Shuanghua calmed down on the flight and shouted to us, "Her flight is not easy to get hurt. Now it's an opportunity, beat me hard." I got up, my feet trembling, but I still gritted my teeth and helped her to fill the cannon. Zhao Lingfeng also tried his best to adjust the engine, insisting on keeping the boat balanced. Several gunfires were fired, and the lit-up boat finally showed up black smoke and began to slump. Her face was blue and glared at us fiercely across the ship's side, and growled, "Do you think you won this way? The carriages of history will not change because of you. Morong Shuanghua, you will regret it." After saying this, her flying boat suddenly accelerated down the wall and headed towards the Yunguan fortress. I felt a furious in my heart and shouted, "What does she want to do? Wouldn't she want to smash the fortress?" Morong Shuanghua's face changed and he gritted his teeth and said, "This woman is crazy. She wants to use the skeleton of the flying boat to cause a big explosion and destroy the clouds. Xiao Lingfeng, chase after her, and you must hold her down no matter what." Xiao Ling was at a loss, and Pin Diaguo controlled the boat with all his strength and chased after it, but our boat was also severely damaged and its speed could not keep up. As the hunched flying boat approached the fortress, I felt desperately looking in my heart. Could it be that I could finish it? At this moment, a fire suddenly lit up in the direction of the Yunguan fortress, and countless arrows and artillery shot towards the lighted boat. It turned out that Jinghua had already prepared, and he gathered crossbowmen and artillery, and launched an attack at the critical moment. The scattered flying boat was hit by the dense attack and finally exploded 100 meters away from the fortress. The flames scattered in the sky, like smoke in the night sky. I looked at the fire, my brain was blank, my legs were soft, and I sat down on the deck. Morong Shuanghua also relaxed his voice and said in a low voice, "I'll count." "I've stopped it." The flying boat landed on the open space near the fortress, and Jinghua brought a team of soldiers to greet him, and his face was full of honor. She looked at us and pointed, "I have kept you too much, Yunguan has saved it, and the situation of the War of Heaven has stabilized. You are the heroes of the Tianxian dynasty." I heard this and I felt nothing joyful. Hero? It is a blessing for a book student to survive. Morong Shuanghua didn't say much, but just turned his head to me. "Lin Ruoxi, the results of this battle have changed, and the direction of history will be different. But you may not be able to afford the price of time travel." I was stunned for a moment and asked, "What price?" She was silent for a moment, and said, "Every time change is an impact on the traveler himself. You may lose your memory and even forget who you are. But it is worth it, and this world finally has a hope." My heart was shocked, and my brain was in trouble. Lost memory? Then am I still me? But looking at the smiles of the soldiers in the Yunwan fortress and the sound of calming shouts on the Farfarer battlefield, I suddenly felt that maybe it was really worth it. In this desperate world, there is a possibility of change, and although I am just a small book student, I can do my best. Morong Shuanghua patted my shoulder and said, "Go back, the last time the flying boat can be used to send you back to your era. The next thing is to be left to the people in this world to fight for it themselves." I clicked the head and followed her and Zhao Lingfeng back on the boat. The engine started again, and the familiar buzzing sounded, and the white light covered the entire ship. I closed my eyes and felt like I was scattered, as if I was being dragged by something, through the endless darkness. When I opened my eyes again, I had returned to the familiar valley, and the boat was parked quietly in the grass, as if it had never moved. My brain was in chaos, as if I had forgotten a lot of things, but there was a sense of ease in my heart that I couldn't say. Xiao Lingfeng stood beside me, grinned and said, "Let's go, brother, go home. Our road is still long." I smiled and pointed, followed him out of the valley, and walked towards the city far away. The sun was on my body, warm, as if it told me that no matter what the future is, at least now, everything is full of hope.